The Mysteries of the Fire. Kundalini Yoga. By Samael Aun Weor. In the Vestibule of Wisdom. Beloved disciple. Many books have been written about Oriental Yoga. Yoga means union with God. All the books that were written about Oriental Yoga, before the new era of Aquarius, which began the 4th day of February, 1962 between the hours of 2 and 3 in the afternoon, are antiquated. This book entitled Kundalini Yoga is for the new Aquarian era. Through this book we teach our disciples a practical religion. All religions teach us unbreakable dogmas on which we have to inevitably believe, even when their truths cannot be seen with eyes of the flesh. In regard to the former statement, we, the Gnostics, are a little different. We teach the human being to see, hear, touch and perceive all of the things from beyond the grave, the divine mysteries, the ineffable things, etc. We sustain that the human being has a sixth sense, and that through this sixth sense, he can see the angels and converse with them. We asseverate that the human being has a seventh sense called intuition. The human being can know the great mysteries of life and death when he awakens that seventh sense. He does not need to study these mysteries in any book. So, beloved reader, this book is for that purpose. You will find terrific secrets within this book, secrets that never in the history of life were published. We respect all religions profoundly, and we do not only respect them, but moreover, we teach our disciples how to see, hear, touch and perceive the essential truths that all religions teach in their sacred books. Therefore, this book that you have in your hands is a book of terrific secrets that have never been published. You can develop your occult powers to see, hear, touch and perceive the angels, archangels, seraphim, potentates, virtues, etc. You can attain union with God with this book. The Holy Bible has great truths. Thus, we read within the Bible how the prophets of God had the power to talk with the angels. This book that you have in your hands belongs to the Gnostic Christian Universal Church. Read it, study it, and meditate on it. This is the yoga of the new era of Aquarius. You will find a glossary at the end of this book with the explanation of the meaning of many words that you may not know. Therefore, search in the glossary for the meaning of each word that you do not know. We are approaching the ethereal world. The human being has to conquer the fifth element of nature, the ether. This has to be the conquest of the Aryan race. Gross materialism must fall wounded before the majesty of the ether. This book is for those who indeed want to convert themselves into angels. Every planet gives birth to 7 root races, thereafter it dies. Our planet Earth gave birth already to 5 root races, 2 more root races are needed. 7 elements of nature exist. The first root race lived in the polar cap of the north and conquered the fire. The second root race, after having fought against the tempestuous atmosphere of the air from the second continent, the Hyperborean continent, attained the conquest of the air and adapted themselves to the environment. The third root race lived in Lemuria, fighting against the tempestuous seas, and were removed by incessant seaquakes. The third root race conquered the water. The fourth root race lived in the continent of Atlantis within an aqueous atmosphere. Human beings breathed through gills, but a total transformation happened in the human physiognomy. With the deluge, the human being developed his lungs and adapted himself to the new atmosphere. Then the human being perceived the physical world with his sight, and he conquered the element earth. Presently we are in the Aryan root race, which populates the 5 continents of the world. The triumph of this root race has not yet been conquered. The Aryan root race will conquer the ether. Atomic investigations will take the human being to the conquest of ether. Interplanetary ships occupied by people from other worlds from different planets of the solar system will come to the Earth. These types of ships are owned by any advanced humanity from any of the worlds of space. However, these cosmic ships have not been delivered to this terrestrial humanity for the simple fact that they will use them to commit the same barbarian invasions that they accomplished here in their historical conquests in other worlds. The people from any of the worlds of this solar system are already very advanced, and they know very well the state of barbarism in which we, the inhabitants of Earth, are found. Nevertheless, in the new era of Aquarius, the inhabitants of the different worlds of the solar system will establish official contact with our planet Earth. Human beings from other humanities like Venus, Mars, Mercury, etc., will come in interplanetary ships, and many people will go aboard those ships to know the different planets of the solar system. Those advanced humanities will teach the human being how to build those interplanetary ships. This is how the official science will be fulminated and human pride will be wounded to death by the advanced humanities from this solar system. In the new Aquarian era, the Aryan root race will conquer the interplanetary ether, and cosmic trips to other planets will become routine. Cultural and commercial interaction will be established with all of the solar system. Thus, as a consequence, the human being will elevate himself to a high cultural level. Later on, the sixth root race that will inhabit the continent of Antarctica will conquer the astral light. The seventh root race will conquer the cosmic mind. Then, the human being will elevate himself to the angelic kingdom. Nonetheless, I tell you, beloved reader, that with this book that you have in your hands, right now, you can transform into a terribly divine angel, if that is what you want. What is important is for you to practice the terribly divine science, which we are delivering to you in this book. May peace be with this entire humanity. Samael Aun Weor. Chapter 1. The Universal Fire. 1. Mahakundalini is Fohat. 2. Mahakundalini is the universal fire of life. 3. The universal fire has 7 degrees of power. 4. O Devi Kundalini. You are the fire of the 7 Laya centers of the universe. 5. The 7 Laya centers of the universe are the 7 degrees of power of the fire. 6. 7 churches exist in the chaos, where the 7 planetary logos officiate. 7. These 7 churches also exist within the spinal medulla of the human being. 8. The 7 planetary logos officiated in their 7 temples in the dawn of life. 9. The 7 saints practiced the rituals of Mahakundalini within the sacred precinct of their temples in the dawn of the Mahamanvantara. 10. The material universe did not exist. 11. The universe solely existed within the mind of the gods. 12. Nonetheless, for the gods, the universe was ideal and objective simultaneously. 13. The universe was, yet it did not exist. 14. The universe is, yet it does not exist within the bosom of the Absolute. 15. To be is better than to exist. 16. The 7 saints fecundated the chaotic matter, so that the universe could emerge. 17. Devi Kundalini has 7 degrees of power. 18. There exist 7 serpents, 2 groups of 3 plus the sublime coronation of the 7th tongue of fire that unites us with the One, with the Law, with the Father. 19. These 7 degrees of power of the fire differentiated the chaotic matter in 7 states of matter upon which the perceptions of our 7 senses are based. 20. The 7 igneous serpents of each of the planetary logos fecundated the chaotic matter, so that life could emerge. 21. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, harmony, emotion and inertness, were in a perfect nirvanic equilibrium before the dawning of the dawn of the Mahamanvantara. 22. The fire put the cosmic scale in motion. 23. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas were unbalanced, therefore, the Mahamanvantara dawned. 24. The yogi must liberate himself from Sattva, Rajas and Tamas to gain the right to enter into the Absolute. 25. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas will be in perfect equilibrium again at the end of the Mahamanvantara. Thus, the universe will sleep again within the profound bosom of the Absolute, within the Supreme Parabrahman, the Innominated. 26. The universe will sleep for 7 eternities, until Maha Kundalini will awaken it again to activity. 27. The chaos is the raw matter of the great work. 28. The chaos is the Mula Prakriti, the primordial matter. 29. Mula Prakriti is Christonic semen from where the universe emerged. 30. We have Mula Prakriti in our sexual organs, and from it springs up life. 31. We see 7 sacred vessels filled with Christonic semen on the altars of the temples of the 7 planetary logos. 32. That is the sacred symbol of Mula Prakriti. 33. Those are the primordial waters of life. 34. The water is the habitat of fire. 35. The one who wastes the water also wastes the fire, and remains in darkness. 36. The 7 saints fecundated the Christonic semen of the universe, so that life could sprout. 37. The yogi has to fecundate his primordial waters, his crystonic semen, with the grandiose power of Devi Kundalini. 38. Kundalini is the spouse of Shiva, the innermost, the Purusha. 39. Kundalini is the spirit of electricity. 40. Electricity is the sexual power of Maha Kundalini. 41. Kundalini is coiled within the chakra Muladhara. 42. Kundalini is the serpent whose tail is coiled 3.5 times. 43. When Kundalini awakens, it whistles as the serpent's whistle. 44. The prana, the buddhi, the indriyas, the ahankara, the mind, the 7 elements of nature, the nerves, are in their totality products of Kundalini. 45. Kundalini is intimately related with the prana that circulates throughout the 72,000 nadis, or astral conduits, which nourish the chakras. 46. The chakras are connected with the mind. 47. The yogi has to Christify his mind. 48. Prana is life, and it circulates throughout all of our organs. 49. Prana circulates throughout all of our nadis and vital canals. 50. All of the 72,000 nadis of our organism have their fundamental base on the nadi kanda. 51. The nadi kanda is situated between the sexual organs and the anus. 52. The kanda collects all of the sexual energy that circulates throughout the 72,000 canals of our organism. 53. The sexual energy is prana, life. 54. The angel Arak, angel of power, taught us the pranav candle, bandil, are for the awakening of Devi Kundalini. 55. These mantras act over the kanda, reinforcing the vibration of prana. 56. Thus, the spouse of Shiva, who is coiled in the chakra Muladhara, is awakened when prana is reinforced. 57. The correct chanting pronunciation of this pranav is as follows. 58. Kandil. Bandil. R. 59. Kan is pronounced aloud. Dil is pronounced with a low voice. 60. Ban is pronounced aloud. Dil is pronounced with a low voice. 61. The letter R has to be rolled and acutely pronounced, imitating the sound produced by the rattles of the rattlesnake. 62. This is how the prana is reinforced, so that from the kanda, from where the Sushumna nadi and the chakra Muladhara are joined, Devi Kundalini awakens. 63. The kanda is precisely situated in the same point where the nadi Sushumna and the chakra Muladhara join. 64. This is why the pranav of the angel Arak acts so intensely over the Kundalini. 65. The kanda nourishes itself with the sexual organs. 66. The kanda has its physiological correspondence in the cauda equina of the spinal medulla. 67. The spinal medulla begins in the spinal bulbar region. This refers to the medulla oblongata, which looks like a swelling, or bulb, at the top of the spinal cord, and ends in the cauda equina. Because of their appearance, the obliquely coursing fine nerve roots or nerve fibers are named the cauda equina, a Latin term for horse's tail, that form the inferior extreme of the spinal medulla. 68. Prana is sexual. 69. The sexual energy is solar. 70. The solar energy is Christic. 71. Prana is Christic. 72. The cosmic Christ is the solar logos. 73. The solar energy comes from the cosmic Christ. 74. The Christic prana makes the spike of wheat to grow, thus, the Christic substance ready to be devoured remains enclosed within the grain. 75. The water from the mountain glaciers penetrates within the stump to ripen the grape, within which the whole life, the whole prana from the Sun Christ remains enclosed. 76. This is why the bread and the wine symbolize the flesh and blood of the martyr of Calvary. 77. All vegetables evolve with the potent force of the solar logos. 78. All food disarranges itself into billions of solar corpuscular energies within our organic laboratory. 79. These solar corpuscular energies are called vitamins by the men of science. 80. The best of the radiant force of the sun remains enclosed within our sexual glands. 81. The very aroma of the sun, the most powerful solar atoms, form that semi-solid, semi-liquid substance that is called crystonic semen or mulaprakriti. 82. Mula Prakriti is the cosmic Christ in substance. 83. Therefore, the entire power of Devi Kundalini is within our Christonic semen. 84. Whosoever wants to awaken Devi Kundalini has to be absolutely chaste. 85. Whosoever wants to awaken Devi Kundalini has to know how to wisely control the sexual forces. 86. The wise control of the sexual energies is called sexual magic. 87. Not a single yogi can totally Christify himself without sexual magic. 88. The Kanda is found situated within the chakra Muladhara. 89. The chakra Muladhara has 4 resplendent petals. 90. The Kanda has the shape of an egg. 91. The Kanda nourishes itself with the cosmic Christ. 92. When the Kundalini awakens, it rises throughout the spinal medulla. 93. The Brahmanadi, or Canalis centralis within which the Kundalini ascends exists throughout the length of the spinal medulla. 94. Our planet Earth also has its spinal column. 95. The spinal column of our planet Earth is Mount Meru situated in the Himalayas. 96. The chakra Muladhara is the abode of Devi Kundalini. 97. The chakra Muladhara is found situated at the very root of our sexual organs. 98. Therefore, the chakra Muladhara is totally sexual, and can be opened only with sexual magic. 99. Sexual magic has always been taught in secrecy within the secret schools of Oriental Yoga. 100. In our next chapters we will teach to our disciples the complete sexual magic of India and Tibet, just as it has always been taught in the secret schools. 101. Now, it is necessary for our disciples to chant daily the pranav of the angel Arak. 102. It is urgent to vocalize daily these mantras for 1 hour. 103. This is how we will reinforce the prana, by intensely acting over the Kanda, to awaken the spouse of Shiva, Devi Kundalini. 104. Maha Kundalini underlies in all organic and inorganic matter, and is the cause of light, heat, electricity and life. 105. We will teach to our disciples in this course of Kundalini Yoga all of the secret science of Maha Kundalini, so that they can awake all of their occult powers, and can convert themselves into logos, into Dayan cones, into Buddhas of Christic nature. 106. While the couple is in sexual copulation, the woman as well as the man should chant the pranav Kandal, Bandal, R. 107. The male should be seated at the right of the female. 108. While seated, male and female should chant this sacred pranav of Maha Kundalini. 109. The 7 planetary logos officiated the rituals of Maha Kundalini in their temples in the dawn of the Mahanmanvantara. 110. I, Samael Aun Weor, was a witness of the dawn of the Mahamanvantara. 111. I still remember when I was visiting the sacred temples of the chaos. 112. An ineffable lady was next to a logos in every temple. 113. Indeed, the separated sexes did not exist, however, the ineffable gods knew how to polarize themselves in accordance with the necessities of the moment. 114. The Elohim or Prajapatis are hermaphrodites. 115. One Prajapati, or Elohim, can draw forth his masculine or feminine polarity. They know how to polarize themselves. 116. This is how the 7 planetary logos could draw forth their masculine aspect. 117. This is how their Isis could draw forth their feminine aspect. 118. Now our disciples will understand how inside each one of the temples of the chaos the gods worked in couples, chanting the rhythms of fire. 119. Groups of children, Prajapatis or Elohim, formed choruses with these ineffable couples. 120. The sacred fire emerges from the brain of the father, and from the bosom of the mother. 121. This coenobium of the sacred fire fecundated Mula Prakriti, so that life could emerge. 122. The raw matter of the great work is the Christonic semen. 123. The raw matter of the great work is the mazar of the gods, the sea of milk, the fountain of milk and of the coagulations, the water of Amrita. 124. That is the sacred cow from where life emerges. 125. These are the primordial waters that we have deposited within our sexual glands. 126. The verb of the gods fecundated the chaotic matter, so that life could emerge. 127. The throat is a uterus where the word is gestated. 128. The throat is the sexual organ of the gods. 129. The sexual magic of the verb fecundated the chaotic matter, so that life could emerge. 130. The creation of the universe was the outcome of the sexual magic of the verb. 131. The universe was elaborated with the type of Anu atom, within the profound bosom of Parabrahman. 132. The Anu atom cannot be multiplied, or divided in the progenital, or primogenital state. 133. All the atoms of the universe are nothing but passing vestures of the primordial Anu atom. 134. This primordial Anu atom is nirvanic. 135. The objective material universe is born from a nirvanic condensation. 136. The entire universe is granulated Fohat. 137. The entire material universe is elaborated with the granulations of Forat. Chapter 2. The degrees of power of the fire. 1. The cerebrospinal nervous system is formed by cerebrum, cerebellum, medulla oblongata, and spinal medulla. 2. The medulla oblongata connects the cerebellum with the sacred spinal medulla. 3. The medulla oblongata is intimately related with all of the so-called involuntary functions of our organic system. 4. The medulla begins on the top of the spinal canal and ends in the first vertebra of the coccygeal region. 5. The spinal medulla is a cord of gray and white material. 6. The gray matter is in the center of the spinal medulla, and the white matter in its periphery. 7. The gray matter is formed in its conjunction by innumerable nervous cells and a multitude of nervous fibers. 8. The white matter is formed by nervous medullary matter. 9. All of this matter looks as if it is suspended from the medullary canal. 10. The nourishment of this fine medullary matter is performed by means of the delicate web of membranes that are around it. 11. The medulla and the brain are surrounded by a powerful liquid mentioned by Mr. Leadbeater in one of his books. 12. This marvelous fluid protects the medulla and the brain. 13. The medulla is totally protected by a marvelous covering of innumerable tissues of greasy matter. 14. The medulla is divided into two symmetrical parts, which are completely demarcated by two caesuras, the caesura of Silvio and the caesura of Rolando. 15. The centralis exists throughout the length of the medulla. 16. The Brahmanadi runs throughout the length of this medullary canal from the chakra Muladhara until the chakra Sahasrara. 17. The Kundalini rises throughout this nadi until the Brahmarandra. 18. The Brahmarandra is septuple in its internal constitution. 19. Each one of our 7 bodies has its own spinal medulla and its Brahmanadi. 20. The Kundalini is constituted by 7 serpents. 21. These 7 serpents are the 7 radicals. 22. These 7 serpents of Devi Kundalini are 7 brothers of Fohat. These 7 serpents of Devi Kundalini are the 7 degrees of power of the fire. 23. The septenary constitution of the human being is 1. Atman, the innermost. 2. Buddhi, the consciousness, the divine soul. 3. Superior manas, the human soul, willpower, causal body. 4. Inferior manas, the mind, mental body. 5. Kamarupa, the body of desires, the astral body. 6. Lingha Sarira, the vital, etheric, body. 7. Sthula Sarira, the physical body. 24. Each one of these 7 bodies has its own spinal medulla, its Shashamnanadi, and its Brahmanadi. 25. There are 7 serpents, 2 groups of 3 with the coronation of the 7th tongue of fire that unites us with the One, with the Law, with the Father. 26. These are the 7 levels of knowledge. 27. These are the 7 doorways of the 7 great initiations of major mysteries. 28. Only the terror of love and law reigns throughout these 7 doorways. 29. The human being raises the first serpent through the first initiation of major mysteries. 30. The human being raises the second serpent through the second initiation of major mysteries, and likewise successively. 31. The human being who raises the 7th serpent converts himself into a Mahachohan. 32. The spinal medulla enters the 4th ventricle of the brain, and after having passed through the 3rd and 5th ventricle reaches the chakra Sahasrara, which is situated in the superior part of the crown of the head. 33. The vertebral column has 33 vertebrae. 34. The cervical region is formed by 7 vertebrae, the dorsal by 12, the lumbar by 5, the sacrum by 5, and the coccygeal by 4 vertebrae. 35. These vertebrae are connected among themselves by fibrocartilaginous cushions. 36. These vertebrae are septuple in their constitution, because they exist in each one of the 7 bodies of the human being. 37. Each one of these vertebrae corresponds, in the internal worlds, to a holy chamber. 38. As the human being causes the Kundalini to rise throughout his spinal medulla, he is penetrating into each one of the holy chambers of the temple. 39. Each one of these 33 chambers is septuple in its internal constitution. 40. The 7 aspects of each one of these 33 holy chambers exactly correspond to the 7 degrees of power of the fire. 41. We are penetrating within the first aspect of each one of these 33 holy chambers with the first degree of power of the fire. 42. We penetrate within the second aspect of each one of these 33 holy chambers with the second degree of power of the fire, which belongs to the etheric body. 43. We penetrate within the 33 holy chambers of the astral body, with the third degree of power of the fire. 44. We penetrate within the 33 holy chambers of the mental body, with the fourth degree of power of the fire, and likewise successively. 45. We crystify our 7 bodies with the 7 degrees of power of the fire. 46. We know the mysteries of the 7 great initiations of major mysteries with the 7 degrees of power of the fire. 47. Our entire personality must be absorbed within the Purusha. 48. Our entire personality must be absorbed within the innermost. 49. The 3 seats must be awakened to liberty and to life. 50. This is how we prepare ourselves to receive our resplendent dragon of wisdom, our cosmic Krestos, that incessant breath from the Absolute who lives within the depth of our being. 51. The human being is converted into a cosmic Krestos when he receives his resplendent dragon of wisdom. 52. Jesus of Nazareth converted himself into a cosmic Krestos when he received his resplendent dragon of wisdom in the Jordan. 53. John the Baptist was an initiate of the cosmic Krestos. 54. An eternal breath exists within the heart of every life. 55. All of the breaths of life are the great breath emanated from the Absolute in the dawn of the Mahamanvantara. 56. All the breaths are resplendent dragons of wisdom. 57. The great breath is the cosmic Christ, the army of the voice Kuan Yin, the melodious voice, Avalokitesvara, Vishnu, Osiris, the central sun. 58. After having raised the 7 serpents upon the staff, the human being then, after some time of work, prepares himself to receive his resplendent dragon of wisdom. 59. That is the descent of Christ into the human being. 60. I, Aun Weor, received my resplendent dragon of wisdom, named Samael, logos of the planet Mars. 61. I am the Chalcean avatar of the new Aquarian Era. 62. I am the cosmic Christ of Aquarius. 63. I am the initiator of the new era. 64. I am Samael, the planetary genie of Mars. Chapter 3. The 2 witnesses. 1. And the angel that talked with me came again, and waked me, as a man that is wakened out of his sleep. 2. And said unto me, What sayest thou? And I said, I have looked, and behold a candlestick all of gold, with a bowl upon the top of it, and his 7 lamps thereon, and 7 pipes to the 7 lamps, which are upon the top thereof. 3 and 2 olive trees by it, one upon the right side of the bowl, and the other upon the left side thereof. Zechariah 4, 1-3. 4. Then answered I, and said unto him, What are these 2 olive trees upon the right side of the candlestick, and upon the left side thereof? 5. And I answered again, and said unto him, What be these 2 olive branches, which through the 2 golden pipes empty the golden oil out of themselves? 6. And he answered me and said, Knowest thou not what these be? And I said, No, my Lord. 7. Then said he, These are the 2 anointed ones, that stand by the Lord of the whole earth. Zechariah 4, 11-14. 8. The 2 olive branches, which through the 2 golden pipes empty the golden oil out of themselves, are the 2 nadis Ida and Pingla. 9. In the male, Ida rises from the right testicle, and Pingla from the left testicle. 10. In the female, Ida and Pingla rises from the ovaries. 11. Ida and Pingla are the two olive trees of the temple. These are the two candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. These are the two witnesses, and if any man will hurt them, fire proceeds out of their mouth and devours their enemies. 12. The solar and lunar atoms of our seminal energy rise through these two ganglionic cords named Ida and Pingla. 13. The right nasal cavity is related with Pingla. The left nasal cavity is related with Ida. 14. It is stated that the solar atoms penetrate through the right nasal cavity, and that the lunar atoms penetrate through the left nasal cavity. 15. The yogis who have not been initiated in the school of internal mysteries practice pranayama with the intention of attracting into the magnetic field of their nose millions of solar and lunar atoms from the exterior world. 16. However, the yogi esoterist initiate does not search outside in the world of Maya. The yogi esoterist initiate searches within himself. 17. When a yogi esoterist initiate practices pranayama, he only wants to make his sexual energy rise from his testicles to the sacred chalice of his brain. 18. Pranayama is an esoteric system to transmute the semen into Christic energy. 19. Pranayama is a system of transmutation for the sexual energy. 20. When the yogi esoterist initiate inhales the prana, or vital Christ through the right nasal cavity, and exhales the prana through the left nasal cavity, and vice versa, when he inhales through the left nasal cavity, and exhales through the right nasal cavity, what he wants is not to attract external atoms as the profane believe, but rather, to raise the solar and lunar atoms from his testicles to the magnetic field at the root of his nose. 21. The clairvoyant who observes the ganglionic cords Ida and Pingla of a yogi in the moments of practicing pranayama will see the pure waters of Amrita, the primordial waters of Genesis, ascending through these two nadis. 22. Swara is the breathing science. Swara is the sacred science of respiration. 23. Tonsah Ham are the mantras for the inhalation, and Tonra Ham are the mantras for the exhalation, whose extremes correspond to the rhythmic contraction and to the expansion of the undifferentiated cosmic matter, Prakriti, Mula Prakriti. Biorhythm by the Master Huiracocha. 24. Thus, from the mantra Svara is formed the sublime swara of which is stated in the 15th verse of the Siddhagama, the Vedas and the Zastras, sacred books of Hinduism, are within the swara. The three worlds are within the swara. Swara is the reflection of Parabrahman, the unique whole, the absolute. This is why some authors state, swara is life. And they add, swara is music. Biorhythm by the Master Huiracocha, Dr. Arnold Krumheller, page 72. 25. Swara afterwards forms the base of the tattvas, since these are the 5 modifications of the great breath. Biorhythm. 26. Now and then, the great breath is the cosmic Christ, Avalokitesvara, Kuan Yin, the melodious voice, the army of the voice, whose head is a Paramartha Satya known in this humanity with the name of Jesus Christ. 27. Jesus Christ is the greatest initiate who has come into the world. 28. The army of the voice is the Merkava. The coachman of that chariot is Jesus Christ, the divine Rabbi of Galilee. 29. Jesus Christ is an inhabitant of the Absolute, who renounced the happiness of Sat, the unmanifested, to come into the world with swara, the reflection of Parabrahman. 30. Therefore, pranayama is the Christic science of the great breath, or cosmic Krestos. 31. That great universal breath of life, that cosmic Christ, abides within our Christonic semen. 32. The yogi works with the great breath, or cosmic Krestos, that is deposited within the Christonic semen when he is practicing pranayama. 33. Pranayama, a practice that consists of making profound inhalations of air, and retaining the inhaled air as much as possible, and afterwards exhaling the air until emptying the lungs, also teaches about the poles of the energy. One masculine pole located in the brain, cerebrospinal nervous system, and the feminine pole in the heart, grand sympathetic nervous system. Thus, as when we form 2 poles in the space through a magneto, we create new energies, and these forcedly are giving birth to a 3rd pole, Likewise, we affirm that the third pole is Devi Kundalini, which, from the union of the solar and lunar atoms, is born within the Triveni, situated in the coccyx. 34. These two polarities, masculine and feminine from the great breath, prove the sexuality of prana and Kundalini. 35. Kundalini is absolutely sexual. 36. People have the tendency of seeing sex as something filthy and horribly passionate. The yogi is ahead of dsa, asti, usti, desire, and reverently prostrates himself before the Gnostic mysteries of sex, because he considers that sex is a sacred function of Devi Kundalini. 37. The yogi knows that the waters of Amrita, Christonic semen, are the habitat of fire. 38. The yogi knows that the entire force of the solar logos abides within the seed of any plant, animal and human. 39. The yogi knows that sex is a holy force, and that it must not be corrupted with fornication. 40. The respiration through the right nasal cavity is called Surya or Pingla. We cause through this respiration the ascension of the solar atoms from our seminal system. 41. The respiration through the left nasal cavity is called Chandra or Ida. We cause through this respiration the ascension of the lunar atoms from our seminal system. 42. We reinforce the 3 breaths of pure akasa with the exercises of pranayama. These 3 breaths are combined with the solar and lunar atoms of our seminal system to awaken Devi Kundalini. 43. Prana is the vital Christ or great breath. That vital Christ is modified into akasa, within which the Son, the first begotten, the Purusha of every human being, is hidden. 44. Akasa is modified into ether, and the ether is transformed into tattvas. The tattvas are the origin of fire, air, water, and earth. 45. Therefore, everything that exists, everything that has been, and everything that shall be comes from the great breath, the cosmic Christ, the army of the voice, whose supreme commander is Jesus Christ. 46. Paranishpana, absolute happiness, without paramartha, awake consciousness, is not happiness. 47. Jesus Christ attained paramartha and paranishpana. Nonetheless, he renounced the happiness of the unmanifested absolute to come and save human beings and gods. 48. When the Elohim or glorious deities started to weave in the loom of God, they cried with pain when contemplating the twilight of the uncreated light that seemed to sink as a frightful setting sun. 49. Then Jesus Christ, the great Paramartha Satya, passed through the Dhyanipasa, and came into the cosmic garden to save the gods, whose innumerable virginal sparks or jivas are devolving and evolving during this Mahakalpa. 50. I, Samael Aun Weor, was a witness of all of these things. I saw when that great being entered the sanctuary, and signed a pact of salvation for human beings, and he crucified himself on his cross. 51. I witnessed the dawn of the Mahamanvantara, and give testimony of all of these things. 52. Later on, at the dawn of the 4th round, the Master sent his Buddha in order for him to prepare himself in this valley of tears. That Buddha is his soul called Jesus. 53. And his Buddha lit his 7 eternal lamps. 54. And his Buddha raised his 7 serpents throughout the 7 canals of the candlestick. 55. Thus, when his Buddha Jesus of Nazareth was prepared there in the Jordan, his resplendent dragon of wisdom entered within him in order to preach to human beings and gods. 56. The sacrifice already happened on that occasion. The commander of all cosmic Christs, Jesus of Nazareth, already washed with his blood all the sins of the sanctuary, and signed the pact between human beings and Kuan Yin, the army of the voice, Vishnu, Osiris, the great breath. 57. Jesus is the supreme conciliator between the human being and the divinity. 58. The nadis Ida and Pingla are the subtle conductors of Shashamna Prana, the Christic sexual energy. 59. Ida and Pingla join the nadi Shashamna in the chakra Muladhara. 60. The union of these 3 nadis in the chakra Muladhara is named Mukta Triveni. This encounter of nadis is repeated in the chakra Anahata and Ajna. 61. Ida is cold and Pingla is hot. 62. The nadi Pingla is intimately related with the functions of organic assimilation. 63. Ida is of a pale color and Pingla of a red igneous color. 64. The yogi can retain the prana that circulates through the nadi shashamna at the point called Brahmarandra, located in the frontal fontanelle of newborn babies. 65. Thus, the yogi can defy death and live entire ages. 66. However, this is only possible for the yogi that has received the elixir of long life. 67. That elixir is a gas and a liquid. 68. That white-colored gas is electropositive and electronegative. 69. That gas remains deposited in the vital depth, thus the initiate can keep his physical body alive for millions of years. 70. This liquid makes the physical body subtle. 71. Thus, the physical body is absorbed within the ethereal body and becomes indestructible. 72. The nadis Ida and Pingala are found side to side of the spinal medulla. 73. These nadis entwine around the spinal medulla, in similar shape to the number 8. 74. The celestial path is inside the nadi shashamna. 75. The Kundalini ascends throughout the Brahmanadi. 76. The Brahmanadi is found situated inside another very subtle canal that runs throughout the length of the spinal medulla, and is known with the name of Chitra. 77. The 7 chakras known with the names of Muladhara, Svadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, Ajna and Sahasrara are over this nadi chira. 78. Buddhi, the divine soul, becomes united with Shiva, the innermost, when the Kundalini reaches the chakra Sahasrara. This is the first initiation of major mysteries. Exercise of pranayama. 79. Let the disciple sit down on the ground, crossing his legs in the Oriental style. This position is called Padmasana in India. 80. Shut the left nasal cavity with the index finger and inhale the prana through the right nasal cavity. 81. Now, retain the air while shutting both nasal cavities with the index finger and the thumb. 82. Exhale the air through the left nasal cavity while shutting the right nasal cavity. Inhale now through the left nasal cavity, retain the air again, and exhale through the right nasal cavity. 83. When you are inhaling the air, imagine the sexual energy ascending through the nadi related with the nasal cavity through which you are inhaling the prana. 84. Think in the 3 breaths of pure akasa descending through the nadis shashamna, Ida, and Pingala, when you are sending the inhaled prana downwards, so to awake the chakra Muladhara, where the Kundalini abides. 85. Prana is the purifying fire that cleans the scoria which plugs the nadis. 86. The veils of rajas and tamas are dissipated with the sexual transmutation in pranayama. 87. The mind of the student is prepared for dharana, dhyana, and samadhi with the practice of pranayama. 88. The disciple should practice pranayama 10 minutes daily. 89. The disciple should drink a glass of milk or eat any light food after he finishes the practice. 90. The disciples can also practice while standing firm on their feet. 91. The disciple should slowly inhale and exhale, with his mind very well concentrated in his practice of pranayama. 92. Many asanas and exercises of pranayama exist, but the former exercise of pranayama is enough for the transmutation of the student's sexual energies. 93. The disciples can also sit on a comfortable sofa to perform his practices. 94. Before starting his practices, the disciple must pray to his innermost by meditating profoundly on him. 95. The disciple must be profoundly concentrated in his chakra Muladhara and begging to his Purusha, the innermost, for the awakening of the Kundalini. 96. The Oriental yogis give a great variety of exercises for pranayama. 97. Let us see. Profound respiration, Sukh Purvak, comfortable position, pranayama while walking, pranayama during meditation, rhythmic respiration, Suryabhita, Ujjayi, Sitkari, Sidali, Bastrika, Brahmari, Mucha, Plavini, Kevala etc. 98. All of these innumerable varieties of practices and asanas, postures, served for the descending arch of the evolving life. Yet, now we are starting an ascending arch of evolution, and therefore, that enormous quantity of postures and exercises are antiquated for the new Aquarian era. 99. Now the yogis of the new Aquarian era live a life of intense activity within the cities, and they do not need to withdraw into the solitary forests, because we are initiating the new Aquarian era. This era is of sociability, cooperation, and co-fraternity between all human beings without distinction of schools, races, sexes, castes, and religions. 100. All the exercises of pranayama can be executed in our own home without too many complications, and without abandoning the execution of all the responsibilities with our family, society, and humanity. 101. The yogi must be absolutely chaste, otherwise, he will fail totally. Chapter 4. The Yogic Matrimony. 1. In our former chapter we studied the esotericism of pranayama, and we realized that it is a scientific system of transmutation for celibate people, singles. 2. The swara, breathing science, is totally sexual. 3. The breathing science is reinforced by the sexual union of the spouses. 4. An act of sexual magic exists with which we can totally awaken and develop Devi Kundalini. 5. The formula is the following: introduce the virile member into the feminine vagina, and withdraw from the sexual act without spilling the semen, without reaching the orgasm. 6. The refrained desire will transform the semen into light and fire. 7. The seminal vapors open the inferior orifice of the spinal medulla, which in common and current people is found completely closed. 8. This labor is developed under the direction of certain devas, who govern the elemental department of the cedars of the forest. 9. Devi Kundalini enters through that orifice of the Nadi Sushumna. 10. Pranayama is totally reinforced with the practices of sexual magic until attaining the union with the Lord Shiva. 11. The great breath is totally sexual. 12. Sexual magic reinforces the great breath. This is how Devi Kundalini progresses. 13. This is how Devi Kundalini evolves, develops, and progresses. 14. Gautama Buddha practiced his cult of sexual magic with his beautiful spouse Yasudhara. 15. Only the one who has drunk the juice of the plant of the moon, Sorna, can be a Brahmin. 16. This plant of the moon is sex, whose juice, Soma, awakens in us the Kundalini. 17. This is the secret of the Vedas. 18. The master Helene Petrova Blavatsky was a great yogi. 19. This great master, after having widowed, had to get married again in the last years of her life to attain her realization and the development of all of her powers. 20. A certain disciple asked the master Mona once, "Master, you already arose the 7 serpents upon the staff, then why do you have a spouse?" The master answered, "Because I got her before awakening my fires, and I need her to enliven my fires." 21. The refrained desire makes our sexual energies rise through Ida and Pingala. Thus, finally, the lunar and solar atoms from Ida and Pingala join in the Triveni to awaken Devi Kundalini. 22. During the amorous caresses, the electricity and universal fire of life are being accumulated in our atmosphere. 23. If the man ejaculates his semen, then, as an electric battery, he discharges himself and totally fails in the great work of the Father. 24. The refrained desire causes the transmutation of the seminal liquor into Christic energy that rises through the nadis Ida and Pingala. 25. The yogi withdraws from his spouse before the spasm or orgasm to avoid the seminal ejaculation. 26. The seminal fire ascends through the nadi Shashamna throughout the length of the Brahmanadi. 27. This is how the Asadarist yogi is totally realized, in depth, as a master of the cosmic day, as a master of the Mahamanvantara. 28. The yogis of the new Aquarian era are self-realized through the sexual act. 29. The times in which yogis needed to withdraw into the jungle to practice their esoteric exercises are gone. 30. Now yogis self-realize through the sexual act. 31. The soul of the new Aquarian era is human cooperation. 32. Yogis must live within society, as see their brothers and sisters, and living with happiness and optimism. 33. The new Aquarian era does not admit hermit yogis. 34. The age of Maitreya is the age of association and co-fraternity among all human beings. 35. Sex is terribly divine, and therefore the yogi must clean his mind from all kind of desires and animal passions. 36. The person who looks at sex with repugnance defile the terrific secret of the Vedas and the science of the great breath, where the Vedas and the Zastras are contained. 37. the yogi who flees from the sacred mysteries of sex is still filled with desires and animal passions. 38. Angels see sex with the eyes of an angel, yet demons see sex with the eyes of a demon, even when they dress themselves with the skin of sheep and disguise themselves as saints. 39. The yogi forms his home, without the necessity of violating the sixth commandment of the law of God, thou shalt not fornicate. 40. One sperm can escape during the act of sexual magic. The lunar hierarchies can select that sperm to fecundate the womb, without the necessity of spilling the semen. 41. This is how the Lemurians engendered their children in the stony sacred patios of their temples. 42. The tenebrous ones from the lunar path were the ones who taught the human being how to ejaculate the seminal liquor. This is how the human being sank into the darkness. 43. Now, we have to return into the sacred conception of the Holy Spirit. 44. The children of the yogis are fragments of victory, children of chastity, children engendered by Kriya Shakti. 45. All yogis must love their spouse and their children, and live amidst harmony, music, love and beauty. 46. Love dignifies, love exalts the soul. 47. God shines upon the perfect couple. 48. There is nothing greater than love. Man and woman were born to love each other. 49. The true yogi converts his home into an Eden of ineffable joys. 50. The yogi's spouse, his woman, is a divine priestess, and vice versa. 51. Women convert men into ineffable gods by means of the very sweet enchantment of love, and vice versa. 52. Male and female yogis self-realize by means of love. This is better than to carry out the life of a hermit. Chapter 5. The Chakra Muladhara. 1. Each one of the chakras located along the spinal medulla awakens as the Kundalini is ascending within the Nadi Chitra. 2. These 7 chakras are located along the spinal medulla. 3. When the Kundalini is still enclosed within the Muladhara chakra, then these 7 chakras are just hanging down. 4. However, when Devi Kundalini ascends throughout the Brahmanadi, then the marvelous petals of these chakras turn upward to Brahmarandra, thus marvelously gleaming with the incomparable sexual fire of Kundalini. 5. Today, in this lesson, we are going to study the Muladhara chakra. 6. This chakra resides at the very base of the spinal column, and is located between the sexual organs and the anus. 7. So this chakra is located at the very root of our genital organs. It awakens in the man and in the woman when they unite their enchantment in sexual magic. 8. The yogi, who does not have a spouse, can activate the flames of his Kundalini with pranayama and meditation. However, the complete, total, and absolute development of the 7 degrees of power of the fire are only possible when practicing sexual magic with our priest/priestess spouse. 9. This is why the female yogi Helena Petrova Blavatsky had to marry again in the last years of her life, long after her first husband Count Blavatsky died. 10. The 7 chakras are the 7 churches mentioned in the book Revelation of St. John. 11. Today, we are going to study the Muladhara chakra. This is the church of Ephesus. 12. Unto the angel of the church of Ephesus write, These things said he that holdeth the 7 stars in his right hand, who walketh in the midst of the 7 golden candlesticks. 13. The one who walks in the midst of the 7 golden candlesticks is our inner Christ, our inner angel. 14. The 7 golden candlesticks are the 7 spinal medullas, which are interrelated with our 7 bodies. 15. The sacred fire ascends throughout these 7 spinal medullas. 16. So, each one of our 7 bodies has its own golden candlestick, that is to say, each one has its spinal medulla, and its sacred fire. 17. We have 7 serpents, 2 groups of 3, with the sublime coronation of the 7th tongue of fire that unite us with the One, with the Law, with the Father. 18. The 7 stars that our inner Christ has in his right hand are the 7 chakras of our spinal medulla. 19. The Muladhara chakra is situated under the Kanda, that is the exact place where the nadis Sushumna, Ida, and Pingala join. 20. This is the fundamental or coccygeal chakra. This chakra nourishes all the other chakras with its sexual energy. 21. The Kundalini is found enclosed within the Muladhara chakra. For nadis similar to the petals of the lotus flower emanate from this chakra. 22. The 7 levels of cosmic consciousness are situated underneath the Church of Ephesus. 23. The mantra of this chakra is Bhur. 24. The mantras DIS, DAS, DAS must be vocalized by prolonging the sound of the vowels and letter S. 25. DIS, DAS, DAS are the mantras that when vocalized in sexual magic, awake the Kundalini. 26. I know thy works, and thy labor, and thy patience, and how thou canst not bear them which are evil, and thou hast tried them which say they are apostles, and are not, and hast found them liars. Revelation 2:2. 27. The root of good and evil is found in the Church of Ephesus. 28. There are many who say they are apostles, and are not because they are fornicators. 29. Remember therefore, from whence thou art fallen, and repent, and do the first works, or else I will come unto thee quickly, and will remove thy candlestick out of its place, except thou repent, and sadness will afflict thy heart. Revelation 2:5. 30. When the human being ejaculates his semen, reaches the orgasm, the Kundalini then descends 1 or more vertebrae in accordance with the magnitude of the fault. 31. Thus, I will remove thy candlestick out of his place, except thou repent. 32. To reconquer the power of the vertebrae lost in one ejaculation is very hard and difficult. 33. This is why our Lord the Christ told me, the disciple must not let himself fall, because the disciple who lets himself fall has to struggle so hard to recover what he has lost. 34. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the tree of El, which is in the midst of the paradise of God. Revelation 2:7. 35. 2 trees exist, the tree of the science of good and evil and the tree of life. 36. The tree of the science of good and evil is the sexual force. 37. The tree of life is the inner Christ of each human being. 38. The tree of the science of good and evil must be transformed into the immolated Lamb of the heavenly Jerusalem. 39. This is only possible when we inebriate ourselves with the aroma of that forbidden fruit that is pleasant to the sight, and of a delectable aspect, of which God said, Thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. 40. We must always withdraw from our spouse before the orgasm, thus, we avoid the seminal ejaculation. This is how the chakra Muladhara awakens. This is how Devi Kundalini awakens. 41. This is how we transform the tree of science of good and evil into the immolated Lamb. 42. This is how we transform into living Christs, and we eat of the tree of life that is in the midst of the paradise of our God. 43. The Muladhara chakra is related with the Tattva Prithvi. Whosoever totally awakens this chakra and attains in-depth realization can receive the elixir of long life and preserve the physical body for millions of years. 44. The Kundalini grants us knowledge of the past, present and future. 45. The evil order of Kula of the tenebrous goddess Kali exists in India. This is an order of black magic. 46. These dismal yogis fornicate, they ejaculate their semen, they violate the 6th commandment of the law of God. This is how they negatively awaken their Kundalini. 47. When the yogi ejaculates the semen, then the Kundalini descends 1 or more vertebrae in accordance with the magnitude of the fault. 48. The black magicians ejaculate their semen during their practices of negative sexual magic. 49. Millions of solar atoms are lost in the ejaculation of the seminal fluid. These solar atoms are replaced by billions of satanic atoms collected from the inner atomic infernos of the human being. These satanic atoms are collected by means of the peristaltic spasmic movements of the sexual organs after fornication, after the orgasm. 50. The satanic atoms intend to ascend through the Brahmanic cord, however, the 3 Akasic breaths precipitate them downward to the coccyx towards the Muladhara chakra. 51. Then a certain atom in the Muladhara chakra enters into activity. Thus the Kundalini, instead of going upward throughout the Brahmanadi, goes downward to the atomic infernos of the human being and forms in the astral body the tail with which Satan is represented, the Kundabuffer organ. 52. During the act of sexual magic, the 3 pure Akasic breaths are reinforced by the human will, thus, they can be for us a blessing or a curse. 53. If the yogi ejaculates the semen, then he will convert himself into a tenebrous tantric personality of the lunar path. 54. Those tantric personalities are totally separated from their purusha, that is to say, they are totally separated from their innermost or jivatma. 55. Every personality who is separated from their innermost sinks themselves into the lunar abysses, and little by little they disintegrate within the most terrible desperation. This is the second death cited in the book Revelation of St. John. 56. But when the yogi withdraws from his spouse before the spasm, then the solar and lunar atoms multiply themselves and ascend through the nadis Ida and Pingala upward to the chalice, the encephalon. 57. Finally, the solar and lunar atoms meet in the coccyx, then the three pure akasic breaths that descend throughout the sacred rod, spine, of the yogi awaken Devi Kundalini, so that he may raise her throughout the Brahmanadi. 58. The bamboo reed symbolizes our spinal column. 59. The moment in which Devi Kundalini and the Lord Shiva become united comes in order to transform us into masters of high mysteries of the great white universal brotherhood. 60. Woman is for the man the door into Eden, let the man love the woman. Blessed be the woman.